My favorite astrologer is back with the Cosmic Weather Report for September 2024. You won't want to miss this jam-packed episode. Welcome to Evolving Humans, the podcast for awakening souls. I'm your host, Julia Marie. Settle in and get ready for another spirited conversation. Michael Spremulli joins us again today for another Cosmic Weather Report. Michael is a vibrational astrologer. Vibrational astrology is an evidence-based method, and Michael has years of experience with this modality. His website is blueridgeastrology.com. Welcome back to Evolving Humans, Michael. I always look forward to our conversations.
Hello, Julia Marie. Pleasure to be here. So it's September already. Where has this year gone?
Just yesterday, it was January.
I know. Well, time marches on, and so does the forecast. So lots to catch you up on. Let's just dive in, if that's all right with you. All right. I always like to remind everyone, because I know we have new listeners showing up all the time, these monthly weather reports, cosmic weather reports, are just like a traditional weather report, meaning everyone's going to get impacted by it differently depending on what's going on in your natal chart. So you're going to experience these energies to some degree, but how much or little you experience them depends on what planets are getting activated in your natal chart. So in short, your mileage will vary, but I'm confident that you'll be able to see some of these themes. So let's wrap up a little bit of old business. On August 28th, Mercury stationed direct at 21 degrees of Leo. Now, Mercury was retrograde from the 6th of August through the 28th. I don't know about you. I have not gotten beat up too badly by this one. I know Mercury retrograde strikes the fear in hearts of many. Couple of little communication blips, but personally, I didn't get that much of a negative impact from it. For those of you who might have been knocked around a lot by the retrograde, realize it's over, and anything related to communication, thought processing, connection of ideas should begin to flow more freely. And I know in last month's forecast, I always like to give a heads up about Mercury retrograde because it's actually a good time to reevaluate our methods of communication and linking ideas and seeing what might need to be resolved. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to do that. So I am curious, how was this retrograde for you? Was it noteworthy or not really all that big of a deal?
Yesterday, had to reset my computer again because it wouldn't start. So,
okay. Well,
that's all I need to say.
Okay. Yeah, enough said there. So as I said, your mileage will vary. The good news is that's now behind us. I always like to cover anything that's overlapping from the previous month. So we're into September now, and I'd like to start with the new moon happening on September 2nd. It's going to be at 11 degrees of Virgo. And I want to spend a little extra time just framing the whole concept again of new and full moons, because it's important. You know, we talk about these cycles in astrology, and astrology is nothing more than cycles inside of cycles inside of cycles. Some of those cycles last for a day. Other cycles last for months or years even. So when we can be aware of when these cycles show up, that's when we can better harness the energy that we have to play with. It's important to note that whenever we have a new moon, 6 months later, we have a full moon. So that's a 6-month cycle that we have to work on whatever is being activated in that new moon. So this new moon happening September 2nd at 11 degrees of Virgo is all about planning, so that by the time the full moon in Virgo shows up in February, we will have had something to show for it. And because vibrational astrology operates from an energy-based perspective, meaning we're just looking at the energy, it's up to us to apply it. We can do nothing. And all right, that's fine. We might not have much to show for it by the time the full moon rolls around in 6 months, or we can harness this energy. Let's talk about Virgo for a second through the lens of vibrational astrology. A lot of times people will see Virgos or people who have a lot of Virgo placements in their chart as picky and maybe being a little challenging to deal with, maybe a little fussy. And some of that can be true, but let's look at what's driving all of that. And for all the Virgos out there, you can let us know if this makes sense or not. Virgo energy is about perfection. Virgos tend to have this idea of what things should look like. And then it's their mission to bring that idea and concept from the abstract into reality. So, practical example, someone has an idea of how they want a room set up for a birthday party, and they're a Virgo. They might say, well, I want the cake in this corner, and then the dais needs to be here, and then we need to have clusters of tables, and they've got it all mapped out in their head. But then they show up to the venue, and it's not set up that way. That could be panic time for a Virgo because it's not matching what the ideal was. So it's not that they're picky, it's they've got this ideal in their mind of how things need to be, and they want to do everything in their power to execute on that. Another thing about Virgo is Virgo often tries to, quote, fix things, people, and or situations. Why? Well, it goes back to that underlying energy of perfection. They want it to be just so. And if the way that you might be doing something is different from their ideal, well, you can end up hitting a little bit of a snag or friction point because it's not aligning. All right, so I say all this to lay the foundation for this new moon in Virgo. Since the Virgo energy, which is going to be activated on September 2nd, is about planning, organizing, fixing things, this is a time for us to step back and look at where our life is at and look at what's working, what's not working. But here's the key that separates this apart. What are we going to do to plan now over the next 6 months so that we can make our lives the most fulfilling as we possibly can and have some structure and discipline so that we can create this ideal? And when we start intentions on a new moon, that energy tends to stay with us a bit as opposed to just setting an intention any other time. We can set intentions whenever. We can set an intention right now. But you get a little extra boost from that new moon energy. The idea is that, especially with Virgo energy, Virgos tend to be more tactical than strategic. And that's not a criticism. It's just an observation, meaning they're great at fixing the here and now. Something's not right. Let's get it put together. We got a problem. Let's fix it. With Virgo being the new moon that is activated, it's almost like the universe is challenging us. Okay, you like to focus on the tactical, but let's look at what you're going to do to make this a little bit more strategic so that by the time February shows up, you might have some new systems or processes or alignment of things where things haven't been aligned previously. So again, that's September 2nd, new moon Virgo. Start to get your plans together. Now is the time to actually be looking at 2025, not January 1, because I'm not going to say it's too late, but you've missed the prep zone. We're beginning to enter the prep zone, so use that time wisely. Any questions on the new moon in Virgo?
No, that makes total sense. It explains why I have Virgo rising. So sometimes I tend to be a little like perfectionistic about things, and you just explained why.
Can we chat about that for a second? I mean, we're not going to get too personal into your stuff, but Virgo rising. So Virgo rising, the rising sign or whatever's on the ascendant, for those of you who are astrology buffs out there, that's what we try to project out into the world. And here's the interesting thing that I think a lot of astrologers may not get this piece. It's not easy. Our ascendant is not necessarily guaranteed to be easy. but it's what we feel compelled to put out to the world. So if Virgo's there, your energy is such that whatever you produce, whether it's a book, I know you've written several books and you do the podcast, and obviously you see clients, whatever you put out as far as your, and I'll do air quotes, product, you want that to be quality. In fact, I would imagine when you see other practitioners in the space who just kind of throw stuff out there willy-nilly without much thought or focus. Oh, I don't want to put words in your head. How does that feel for you when you see other practitioners put stuff out there that really is maybe a little half-baked or doesn't have much practicality behind it?
Oh, that was a really crafty way of doing that. Um, I don't really appreciate sloppy presentation,
Mhm.
but I admire when somebody in my field does do it right.
Yeah. Well, because that's the standard. Virgo
Yeah.
is like, Aquarius is the water bearer. Well, Virgo's like the standard bearer. Virgo wants to set the bar high. Virgo's not pleased with just ho hum. Let's do this right. So with the rise, with Virgo rising, that's super ingrained in your cosmic DNA that whatever you put out,
Yes.
you want it to be
Mhm.
top notch, or we're not going to do it. And I think we've discussed in the past on several other episodes where you've gotten close to some projects to a deadline, but things weren't where they needed to be. And it's like, no, we need a little more time rather than just whoop, push it out there and hope for the best.
Yep.
That's Virgo rising. Yeah, that can explain why we get a little frustrated if our ascendant, little sidebar information here, whatever your rising sign is, if you run into some challenges being able to express that, and it's not smooth flowing, that's actually normal because the ascendant is not necessarily meant to be easy. It's what we feel compelled to bring to the world. And it's almost a little bit of a struggle, like the baby chick trying to come out of the egg. And ultimately, the struggle makes us stronger, just like the chick coming out of the egg. And we've all heard the story that if you try to help a bird or a chick get out of the egg, they don't have enough strength to clear their lungs, I believe it is, and then they end up not making it. So the struggle is real. Embrace that struggle. This hopefully gives a little insight as to where that may be originating from. All right, so let's continue on now. And every month we're guaranteed at least two things, a new moon and a full moon. Well, we got a full moon happening September 17th at 25 Pisces. And ding, 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 bonus time, it's also a lunar eclipse. So the lunar eclipses, any type of eclipse is noteworthy. The idea behind lunar eclipses, it gives it a little bit more punch. Think of it as a shot of steroids. So the energy that is active during a lunar eclipse is going to be more sustained than just a typical full moon type energy. Meaning it's going to last longer. It's going to be more potent. It's going to have more pizzazz. Pizzazz is not the right word. More potency is what it is. So it's going to linger for a little bit of time. In order to kind of look at what's coming to a head, because remember, new moons are about beginnings, full moons are about endings and completion and letting go. The Pisces new moon occurred back in March 10th, 6 months earlier. Pisces is about pulling everything together. Pisces, in a word, is eclectic. It's the last sign of the zodiac. It is bringing everything together. What have you been working on since March that is now about to come to a head on September 17th? Because we've got this lunar eclipse / full moon in Pisces. So when we're talking about eclectic and the energies of Pisces, it's about bringing things together that may not normally mix together. So here's an example. We've seen on food shows a gas station that might have a hidden gem Thai restaurant attached to it. That's Piscean energy. You would not expect to find quality Thai food at a gas station, or maybe the best donuts at a bowling alley. I'm just giving you examples here. I always like to say the phrase content is not important. It's the context that is. So what have you been working on since this new moon in Pisces back in March, where you're kind of putting things together and dissolving borders, because Pisces likes to dissolve borders. It's kind of everything. It pulls everything together. And Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac, which means it brings all the energy with it from all the other signs. It's what's in your heart, your mind, your dreams, your fantasies, even your wildest fantasies. So when you're approaching a full moon in the sign of Pisces, it's a time for us to say, okay, I've seen it all. I've done it all. I've tried different things. What do I need to let go of? Because either it's no longer serving me or it's not helping me appreciate this eclectic perspective. And what do I might need to hang on and continue to work on? So with this full moon / eclipse, it could bring about some clarity on major life issues. I'm not talking about, well, are we going to have a good trip coming in the fall, or am I going to get a new job? Those are important things. But Pisces activates things a lot more deeper within us because of its nature of being all inclusive. And Pisces can get a little murky because it's everything. So you might have to sift out and spend a little time figuring out, I've been putting some effort into a venture. It just hadn't quite worked. I know I've given it my all. It may be time to let that go and move on to something else, while taking the skills that you acquired from pursuing a venture that might not have developed in a way that you want fully, and then applying that to something else. Because Pisces is ultimately happy with connectedness. When we're able to connect and everyone's involved and everybody has an equal part and different aspects of my life are coming together almost at this nexus point, that's when Pisces is really in the zone. So because the eclipse is happening, expect that energy to linger for 2 to 4 weeks. Normally a full moon energy lasts for about a month, a week or so ish. This is going to be louder. It's going to be longer. So it's not disruptive. It's not, oh, the sky is falling, but it's going to make us think. It's going to cause us to be a bit more introspective. And this is the perfect time to cast off things that just aren't working, that are working against the whole idea of connectedness and integration. And again, that's September 17th at 25 Pisces, right toward the end of the sign. All right. So, as I say every month, no forecast is complete without some vibrational themes. There isn't a whole lot going on. There are 2 major vibrations that are happening this month. One is a carryover from the end of August that has been active for several weeks. And that one is the 31st vibration. So that's active from September 1st through the 5th, but it's actually been active before that, going back at least 2 or so weeks, maybe a little longer. Actually, I have it here in my notes from the 18th of August. It was actually before that. I just redid this in my newsletter. So most of August, the 31st vibration was activated. So what is the 31st vibe all about? And when we're interpreting vibrations, we look at the vibration first and then the planets, because the planets ultimately serve the vibration. Now, I always just find this fascinating when we put all this out on paper, digital paper, but you get the idea, to see how things unfold. If Pisces is kind of prepping us to integrate and connect everything, the 31st vibration actually is related to that because it has to do with spiritual awakening or a clarification of what's it all about. Alfie. There's a reference for people who are in my generation. Millennials are like, who? Alfie. The 31st vibe tends to stir up all these questions in us about our existence and wanting to make sure that we're on the right path and that innovations with regards to reaching for the stars, but still being practical, can be present in this 31st vibe. It's a very introspective vibe. You have some vibes like the fifth vibe that's more fun and play, where energy just flows and you have a good time. This asks of us a lot of questions. So for the past month or so, you might have been contemplating things such as, well, what happens when we leave this earth? What are my spiritual beliefs? Are they the same now as they were 10 years ago? And does that continue to serve me, or maybe not so much? So that's the 31st vibe as far as the theme. But then we have to look at the planets. So the three planets that are connecting in the 31st vibe are Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So Saturn takes out anything that's not essential. Uranus breaks us out of the norm and focuses us on the here and now. And Neptune is what is magical and idealistic for us. So when we're looking at these three planets inside of the 31st vibe, it awakens in us this idea to be visionary. It might spark a visionary approach in us where spiritual insights can be applied in practical ways. Oh, well, that sounds interesting. Well, what does that look like? It can look like a whole bunch of different things, but here's one example. So let's say one of the things that you've discovered is how breath work helps you focus on maintaining composure and calmness and giving you mental clarity. And then you might discover, you know what? I might be able to apply this breath work that I do for personal development into the work that I do as an individual. Whether you're an accountant or whether you're an auditor or whether you're whatever. This is just an on-the-fly example. But the idea is being able to bring things in from the spiritual realm and apply it in a way that helps us get things done practically, which is kind of the name of the game. You don't just want to float around in the spiritual space. We got a life to live and we got things to do. We have responsibilities, we have jobs. But the idea is that everything coexists. So when we're looking at these planets inside of the 31 vibe, it brings us the ability to break out of the norm and pursue something that is magical and passionate to us. That's Neptune's involvement. And do so where we're bridging that gap between our daily consciousness and spiritual experiences. Something else that can occur when the 31st vibe is active is integration of these spiritual elements into daily life, almost to the point where it becomes automatic. Now, note I didn't say that we want to ignore these. Automatic sometimes implies, well, we're just going through the motions. But I know a lot of people I've been speaking with during my individual consults recently have been saying, I feel like I'm in this space where I'm not quite sure what's next, but I know it's got to be different than what I'm doing now. And I'm trying to pull all this together. And that's that whole idea of the 31st vibe being activated. It sometimes raises more questions than provides answers, but there's power in questions. If we start questioning things as far as our beliefs and our habits and where we allocate our time and energy, that can open doors that have been previously closed or even locked shut for years. So be open to the idea of where spiritual type of practices, whatever that means for you, can work their way into everyday life and everyday existence. And that could have profound, lasting change. And because this vibe is active for so long, some of these vibrations, they last a day and then they move on. You've got three slow-moving planets here. You've got Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. All of those are slow movers. So this configuration or circuit is present for quite a long time. So it sets the stage for you to be transformational, not in a whiz-bang type of way, but more at a core level, almost like an operating system upgrade for your computer. Not to touch on your computer again, because I know that's a sore subject, but you get the idea. Creative discipline is another thing that shows up when the 31st vibe is active. So it's it's being able to put in the work. Whenever Saturn's involved, it takes anything that's a distraction and gets rid of it. So we know what to focus on. And Saturn, Uranus by themselves, it could be a little disruptive because we feel like I don't fit in here. I want to break out of this. But with Neptune being there, it paves the way to say, well, you might not fit in here, but here are some other options to consider where you might fit in beautifully. So that's the theme of this 31st vibe that's happening. In short, it's the ability to merge the visionary with the practical to help you break out of the old limiting cycles and step into new ideas, venues, and spaces, both physically and mentally, that you might not have explored before. So that's some cool stuff. And because it's been lasting for so long, I'm seeing, and that's another thing, just from a general perspective. When I'm talking about vibrational transits that are lasting for a long period of time, you're going to run into a lot of people who are sharing a similar experience simply because the energy is lasting so long. And then that gives it more time to light up individual charts and make those connections. When a transit happens quickly, it's like, yeah, ramp up, ramp down, and that's it. And you may miss it. Everyone's getting hit by this to some degree. So that is the 31st vibe. Let's switch gears now and talk about the 55th vibration, which is a combination of vibrations 11 and 5. So 55 is 11 times 5. It's active from September 12th through the 16th. Not nearly as long here. And the planets that are involved are Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto. So in order to look at the vibration, we got to break down its components. We have the 11th vibration, which is about this restless energy. It's like we're feeling the need to do something. We're not comfortable sitting on the couch, just reading a book. We need to be doing something, making something happen. And then we have the 5th vibration, which is all about free-flowing creative energy. It's like a child at play. It's the opposite of work. It's just kind of like wants to go and explore. It isn't a fan of the mundane and predictable. It's about exploration. So we combine 11 times 5 to give us 55. And this is active again from the 12th through the 16th of September. Expect some restless creativity to show up in your life, however that looks for you. It's like you want to do something, but you want it to be fun and you want to explore. I will tell you that in the 55th vibration, there's been quite a bit of evidence in the VA world where people who have a strong 55th vibration in their natal chart tend to have a pretty strong talent for songwriting and musical arrangement. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to everyone or anyone listening to this because that's a natal placement. But the energy, if you look at what goes involved in songwriting and musical arrangement, you got to get into a flow and you got to just kind of play around and see what works. And you play this chord and no, that doesn't work. And then you try another chord. No, that doesn't work either. Then you hit the right one. Boom. And it's like, oh, there it is. That's the 55th vibration demonstrated because you're doing something, you're trying different things, you're restless till you get this composition laid out, but you're doing it in a fun, exciting, exploratory type of way. So what can you expect when through the 12th through the 16th? Remember, the planets are Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto. Well, let's talk about Saturn and Pluto first, and then we'll pull Neptune into it. So Saturn takes things out that's not essential. Pluto is dog with a bone like energy. So it ramps up Saturn's ability to cut things to the bone. It's like, let's get rid of everything that we don't need and put that on steroids. And what are we going to focus on instead? What is magical to us? Because that's Neptune. Neptune is like, I want to go to the Super Bowl. That's some people's idealistic situation. Other people want to visit France. Other people may want to open a bed and breakfast. Whatever it is, it could be all sorts of different things. It's not like you're, everybody's psychic or spacey. That's the traditional definitions of Neptune. But VA, the data shows something different. So when you have Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto all together, a couple of things happen. Because Saturn and Pluto are good at spotting things that don't line up, this is a time when you tend to notice inconsistencies, whether they be visual or auditory or what people are saying. It's like you are able to zone in on that really, really easily without much effort. Also, during this vibration from the 12th through the 16th, you may end up getting really triggered by hypocrisy due to the planets that are involved. So Saturn and Pluto, they don't stand for it. It's like, no, we're going to look at what this is for what it is. Yeah, we can pursue something magical because of Neptune's involvement, but hypocrisy tends not to do well in this cycle because people will call other people out on it. So this is actually an ideal time to engage in communities, organizations, and activities based on your own standards and the sincerity to become a positive and motivating force in the orbit that you end up affecting. So that could be something as small as a church group that you're involved with. It could be a large activism group that you might participate in. It might be that you're the chairperson for your block party. Whatever it might be, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto is helping focus you on things that are magical and ideal without the glitz and glitter. It's not a bunch of, hey, let's just have a party. No, it's what's true magic. The feeling of community, feeling of being belonging in a particular place. And the way you get there through this fifth vibration, it's not even like work. You feel restless because you want to get it done, but it's fun. It's got this free-flowing, expansive energy that rolls along with it. So again, 55th vibration, 11 times 5, active from September 12th through the 16th. The planets are Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto. And I know this is repetitive, but I always like to do that because people may be in the car and they may want to jot this down. So I try to give the meanings multiple times. All right. Next vibration, 49th vibration, which is 7 times 7. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Well, the 7th vibration is about a quiet, deep internal focus. And this is active from September 17th through September 25th. So, close to a week there-ish. Now, because it's the 49th vibration, this is like happening at a deep core level. When we get higher in the vibrations, when we start to cross above 32, things become less physical and become more mental. Almost like this gut feeling. We kind of know something's there. We might not be able to articulate it. And we just kind of sense the energy, but may not be able to put it into words. Well, the 49th, because it's 7 times 7, enables us to take the time out and deal with deep, abstract thought. So if the 7th vibe is solitude, internal focus, being a little introverted, focusing on things so that we can get a particular job or task done, when we multiply it and step into the 49th, it takes that understanding and exploration into an area where it's a lot more abstract and more deep. The planets that are connecting in the 49th are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So these planets, these combinations, again, now we're going back to a spiritual or cosmic element because these are very transpersonal planets. The ideas that come up when we're dealing with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, Uranus breaks us out of the rut and the norm, wants to focus on the here and now. Neptune is what is magical and visionary, and Pluto is the compulsion to pursue these types of things. So while this 49th vibe is active, you might be hit with some inspirations that will help you succeed in various projects or endeavors rather, that have this visionary or youthful or inspirational quality. Things that are very uplifting tend to come into focus when Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are active. And because it's in the 49th vibe, you're able to then tap into that abstract thought and then make it more practical and concrete. And this could show up again in a variety of different ways. It all depends on what is going on in your life, what's in your chart, and how you choose to exercise this. But you'll notice the theme that we've been discussing here for September, a lot of it has to do with connecting at the major level, where there's been so many boundaries and divisions born over the recent times. And I'm not saying I'm not Pollyanna saying everything's going to be hunky dory, but there may be during this month of September some breakthroughs where you start to at least see a crack in the veneer of where these divisions have been. And when we look at the new and full moon and all the other things we're talking about, where there might be some connectivity that hasn't been felt in a while. So that's the 49th vibration and 7 times 7, September 17th to the 25th, Uranus, Pluto, Neptune. And it's all about the idea of focusing on abstract thought so that you're able to then harness this spiritual energy and exercise it in the physical form. One last vibration for the month. We have the 15th vibration, which is a combination of vibrations 5 and 3. It is active from the 17th of September through October 1st. That actually goes into October a little bit. And the planets that are active in the 15th vibe are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus. Now, you notice you see a lot of these same planets repeating. Well, that means the energy is going to be amplified. One energy does not cancel out another energy. So we've seen Saturn show up numerous times, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So here we have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus. That's kind of new to the mix. But let's talk about the 15th vibe. It's a combination of 5 times 3. So the 5th vibration we know about, free-flowing organic energy. Things just kind of flow naturally. It's not like work, it's play. And then we have 3, which is technically it's a trine. It's this desire for things to flow easily. And there's been recent research released in VA, I'm talking within the past 3 months, that has looked at what trines actually mean. Traditionally, it's been said that trines are about, free-flowing energy, everything's going to be coming up daisies and roses, and that's not quite what the data has revealed. When a trine is present, both in a natal chart as well as in the sky, it's almost like this free-flowing energy must exist. And if it doesn't, we're not a happy camper. So the trine does relate to free-flowing energy, but it doesn't guarantee that it's going to happen. It is telling us where it needs to happen and when and what's involved. The 15th vibration is this combination of free-flowing creative energy so that it ultimately must flow and work well with others. Because in trines, it's more of this back and forth as opposed to oppositions or conjunctions where it's a bit more friction-based. They're not bad, but that's when things happen. When you rub 2 sticks together, we create friction and ultimately create a fire. When we put these together, when we look at both the vibration and Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Jupiter and Saturn are the organized, they're like the professional organizers when they get together, because Saturn wants to make things very efficient and cut it to the bone. Jupiter wants to expand things. And on the surface, it's like, well, how does that happen? Remember, in VA, one energy does not cancel out another energy. People who have Jupiter, Saturn in their natal charts, they're some of the best organizers, managers, able to run a business because they're able to grow, but in a structured way. That's Saturn's involvement. And with Uranus being involved, it brings novelty and newness to the equation. So what ends up happening under a 15th vibe with Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus is it can unearth a progressive approach and invite a much needed change to a system that may be outdated. So we might end up experiencing during this time some new ideas at the collective level as far as how we do things that may improve a system that is broken. This is all about a teamwork situation versus going alone. There are times for both in life. But from the 17th through of September through the 1st of October, this is about breaking out of the rut, growing, but not too big and not too erratically because Saturn's in there, and helping us fix something that might have gone off course. So in our personal lives, this can link to relationships. It can relate to career. It can relate to how we communicate with our people. It might even relate to, how and where you park your car, something as simple and mundane as that. Not all insights are earth-shattering, but every insight is important because it shapes our lives as to who we are. During this cycle, be aware of what change might need to be made, and then look at how you can go about implementing that change with a team. And because it's in the 15th vibe, it's not like you're having to kick, claw, and scream your way there. There's cooperation, and it's free flowing. And dare I say, it might even be a little fun. So again, 15th vibration, 5 times 3, September 17th through October 1st. Planets that are involved are Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus. That's what's happening for the month of September.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights with all of us. And before we close, will you please tell the people where they can find you?
Sure. To learn more about what I do, the consulting one-on-one services that I offer, to check out my online community and a whole bunch of other stuff, too much to list here, just go to blueridgeastrology.com. That's blueridgeastrology.com. That's my site. I'm connected to everything there. You can reach the socials, sign up for the community, download the free lunar lookup table, lots of free resources out there. And we've got some other options if you want to take the work deeper. Again, that's at blueridgeastrology.com.
As always, so grateful to have you here every month. Looking forward to next time.
Same here. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, that's our time for today. I'm grateful to each and every one of you for continuing to support this podcast with your subscriptions and your shares. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with at least 2 other people so that together we can bring more light to this world. Michael has his own playlist on the Evolving Humans with Julia Marie YouTube channel, and this episode is found there. Please support us by hitting the subscribe button on YouTube and give him a like for his great content.